Hello, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to today's Gala webinar. We are waiting for everybody to log in. So as usual, in the meantime, I would like to invite everyone to write in the chat where you are joining us from, if you feel like it. Okay, we have Uppsala in Sweden. Hello, Julia. Let's see.
And
One more minute. Yes. Okay. Well, I see some familiar names. Quebec. Fishers, Indiana. Wow. Okay, Madrid. Excellent. We got the whole world. Okay.
Hello, Argentina.
Okay, let's get started. So welcome to today's Gala webinar. My name, excuse me. My name is Isabella Massardo and I work as content strategist at Gala. And today I have the pleasure of having with us Viveta Jean, no introduction needed, to be honest, and Valeria Canavina, also no introduction needed. She presented, I think, not so long ago. And they're going to talk about the future of CAT tools and the impact of AI on the CAT tools. And this webinar is being recorded. I will follow up with an email as soon as the recording becomes available on our website. There will be time for a Q&A at the end of the presentation. So I suggest you keep your questions coming either in the chat or the QA box, whatever you prefer. And we'll take some time at the end to answer them. For now, I'm going to hand it over to Viveta and Valeria, and I'm going to be backstage. If you have any technical issues, please send me a message and I'll help you troubleshoot. And for now, enjoy the presentation. Valeria and Viveta, over to you.
Thanks, Isa.
Thank you very much, Isa. Thank you for the intro and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever. Welcome to our Gala webinar on future-proofing translation, CAT tools as the backbone of AI integration. So we love CAT tools, and I'm Viveta Jean, and I'm joined today by Valeria Canavina, who brings extensive hands-on experience in implementing these kind of technologies. Today marks the first of our two-part series exploring how the translation industry is evolving beyond traditional machine translation post-editing toward new models of human AI collaboration. So we will examine how CAT tools continue to serve as the critical foundation for sustainable AI integration. And before we go further, a few housekeeping notes. This session is being recorded and will be available to Gala members. You can use the chat function as we talk for questions, to chat for whatever, and we will address them during our dedicated Q&A session if we have time for that. I hope so, but we will interact over time. And we also have several questions for you planned. So keep participating and interacting in your chat windows. So let us share a little bit about ourselves. Oh, I'm Viveta Jean. I finished my PhD, which started in 2020 in translation and new technologies. I have 20 years of experience in the industry. And I'm dealing with AI, CAT tools, business models. And my main, let's say, activity and research field is how to transform global organizations and deploy multilingual content through strategic human AI collaboration frameworks. So when you hear Viveta and technology, this means that human is at the core or in the loop or whatever you prefer. Intertranslations is a company based in the UK and has the offices in Greece. And we're dealing with all kinds of content. We're top contractors of the EU Commission. But in this webinar, I'm representing research, so I'm dealing with research studies and the Ionian University, where I am an adjunct professor at the moment. So thank you very much. Valeria, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Viveta. So I'm Valeria Canavina. I'm a solution architect and I work for RWS. I have a passion for blending technology and human expertise. And I really like the human and the machine interaction. And that's what I do on a daily basis when I implement solutions for our clients. So yeah, I think we can get started, Viveta. It was a
Okay,
quick
so
one, I know.
thank you very much, Valeria. So we're ready to see together what you'll take away today, because this is what matters. We have a lot of theories. So first, we'll explore the current state of integration between traditional CAD tools and emerging AI technologies, particularly these LLMs, large language models. We'll compare where we are now with the findings from our 2020 webinar. If you remember, there was a webinar, the management and training challenges of post-editing, that I presented with a survey. And we'll also examine new business models emerging from this technological shift and discuss how workflows are evolving to accommodate more sophisticated AI tools. A significant part of today's session is to introduce our industry-wide survey, which will provide crucial comparative data against our 2020 benchmark. So finally, we want to ensure you live with actionable strategies you can implement in your own organizations. You need to be thinking what we will share and how you will implement them. In our second webinar, we will go deeper into the survey results and provide even more concrete recommendations based on those findings. So our ultimate goal is to help you navigate this rapidly evolving landscape while maintaining the quality and control that your clients expect. And before we look at our specific MTP research, I'd like to set the stage with some fresh industry context coming from, these amazing research companies like CSA, Ninji, and of course Gala, because Gala has a barometer and they run surveys that are amazing. So we're going to see, according to all this data, technology capabilities which scale with company size and appear to define future success. Smaller LSPs are reportedly less positive about Gen AI's impact than they were a year ago, while larger companies are feeling more comfortable in the new AI era. On the buyer side, a similar divide exists, and many organizations still grapple with core language technologies like TMS or MT, while more mature enterprises are eager to invest in AI. The fastest growing service offerings in 2024 were MT and post-editing, data services, prompt engineering, and AI text content creation. And this is a clear indication of where the industry is heading. These trends provide important context for our discussion of how CAD tools are evolving as the backbone of AI integration. So before we look at where we are now, let's take a moment to reflect on our starting point. In 2020, I presented a Gala webinar, and you are going to have the links on the management and training challenges of post-editing, which revealed several key insights about how our industry was adapting to machine translation. At that time, we found that approximately 62% of LSPs had implemented some form of machine translation post-editing, but adoption varied significantly by company size and specialization. The primary challenges identified were quality consistency, translator resistance, and difficulties in pricing MTP services appropriately. And I remember that time one participant notably said that we have improved efficiency, but we're still figuring out how to maintain our quality standards while leveraging MT effectively. And this is a question that we should think today. Is, again, quality what is our challenge, or do we care more about cost with the advent of all the new technologies? The technological landscape was quite different then. Neural MT was becoming the standard, but large language models like GPT, Claude, whatever, hadn't yet entered the scene. Most CAD tools offered basic MT integration, but the relationship was largely one way. So MT provided suggestions that humans needed to edit within the CAD environment. So our 2020 survey revealed that the most common workflow used by 56.9% of LSPs was a simple chain of pre-translation with TM followed by MT for no matches, and then human post-editing. Only 11.8% were doing any form of pre-editing, and just 13.7% had incorporated annotation steps into their workflows. Perhaps most telling, 83% of LSPs reported requiring full post-editing or human quality output, indicating limited confidence in MT and little differentiation in service levels. This approach essentially treated machine translation as just another translation memory tool rather than a technology with unique capabilities and limitations. Looking at this timeline, we can see how rapidly things have evolved since then, with each technological advancement creating new opportunities and challenges. And the question now is, what was the impact of these changes?
I think
so, Valeria.
Yes, thanks, Viveta. And so, as we can see from this diagram, today's translation technology ecosystem has significantly changed and is actually way more complex than what it was in 2020, like just Viveta described. CAD tools remain at the center, but they now interact with a much wider range of AI technology. Based on the preliminary research and also some clients' implementation, RWS, we are seeing that the CAD tools are evolving from being primarily translation memory and terminology management system, and they're becoming orchestration platform that coordinates different AI services, which include Neural MT, Neural MT, which have now continued to improve in quality. They include large language model, which offer capabilities beyond the traditional translation, AI-powered quality assurance tools, automated content categorization system, and finally, adaptive learning system that evolve based on the translation, on the translator's feedback, on the linguist's feedback. So the recent Gala research confirms that the shift in the industry landscape, with 85% of organizations now using AI in their localization and productivity tools. And so I think now the question is no longer whether to use AI, but how to integrate it in your workflows in a more efficient way. And so it is very interesting to see how end clients are actually leading the AI adoption by about 15% compared to LSPs, which represent a reversal of the traditional technology adoption pattern that we've seen in the past. So while the adoption is high, the readiness for AI varies significantly. So about 65 of companies have moved to enterprise-level AI services that offer greater security guarantees, but most organizations report that only about 30% of their data is fully AI ready, which is a significant gap that affects output quality and implementation success. What is also particularly interesting here is how the relationship between the CAD tools and AI has evolved in the years. Rather than CAD tools simply incorporating these AI's features, we are seeing bidirectional integration, where the CAT tools provide structured workflow and quality control, while AI systems handle increasingly complex linguistic tasks. So, for example, at RWS, we've implemented system where our CAT environment coordinates with multiple specialized AI models, each one handling different content types or languages, while still maintaining centralized terminology management and translation memory for leverage. So there's no doubt that this evolution has had significant implication on how we structure our workflow, and also the skills that are required for our team, with our team, to perform the different tasks. And we were going to discuss this shortly. And so over to you, Vivetta.
Thank you very much. So now we have prepared for you, because we want to keep you active, and we would not like to have this kind of, one or two people show webinars here. So it's good for you to interact if you can with each other, let's say in the chat space. So you can answer this question: what is your organization's current level of AI integration in translation workflows? And it can be an option ranging from no integration for us, or advanced integration, or somehow integration, or whatever you want to describe it, and it can be more words. So to make it more interactive, you can use your chat space, and you can share discussion, and we will check later, or Valeria will coordinate while I'm talking to you. Just to share ideas and have a warm up before the survey is launched, where we will have the real data. So we can go ahead while we have your interaction. We hope so. It's very nice. We're here for your voices to be heard.
Don't be shy.
Only one word, two words, whatever you want. Just be present here. Fantastic. It's very nice, Valeria, when we see people embracing the future and the new technologies, whatever they are, opportunities or challenges. And it's also very promising when we see people not having embraced any of the latest techs, and they are interested in learning. This is a very nice thing.
Yeah, I'm just reading the different comments on the chat.
It's very nice. Sophia Jose, thank you for your comments. Amazing. And I'm going on with the next slide while you are sharing your integration progress. And we're going to talk, Valeria, if you could go to the next slide, because people will interact, but we need to go on. So we're going to talk while you are writing in the chat space and interact with each other about the foundation roles. So I don't know if we are talking about roles, because you see it on the screen and you're going to get confused. So I would like to put this in brackets, the roles, and talk about hats. And I will explain why. So one of the most fascinating developments since our 2020 research has been the emergence of specialized roles in the CAT AI ecosystem. And by AI, I mean anything like machine translation, LLMs, whatever it was. At that time, it was machine translation. So in 2020, we were just beginning to recognize the importance of distinct roles like pre-editors, post-editors, and annotators. So from now on, whenever I use the word role, just translate it into a hat. Because we're talking more about tasks. The people, just to be loyal to my research, the people are translators. They're not changing their role. The tasks are different, like pre-editing, post-editing or annotation. But anyone should have a translator background to be able to perform these tasks, along with other skills, of course. So for those who were not at our 2020 webinar, let me briefly outline these foundational hats. And I think that Valeria shared with you the latest and previous research, so you can go and check anytime these webinars. So the pre-editor prepares content specifically for machine translation, applying controlled language principles to improve MT output quality. This role requires understanding MT system limitations and how to craft text that maximizes MT performance. The translator who is performing post-editing, which was the primary focus in 2020, was primarily responsible for correcting MT output. So the skills required were largely similar to traditional translation, with some additional technical proficiency in CAT tools. And we dealt with this topic a lot with Lucia Guerrero in our work with the Machine Translation Post-Editing Training Special Interest Group and the publicly available handbook that you can find in the references we shared with you. So the annotator role focused on identifying and documenting MT errors to help improve system performance over time. In this research of 2020, we found limited differentiation in how post-editors were working. Most organizations treated post-editing as a variation of translation, rather than a distinct discipline with its own methodologies and requirements. And since 2020, we've seen a significant evolution in these roles and the emergence of entirely new specializations. So the post-editor has evolved considerably. While traditional post-editing skills remain important, today's post-editors need a more sophisticated technical understanding of AI systems, better pattern recognition skills, this is a good keyword, and the ability to provide feedback that improves MT systems over time. The annotator role has grown in importance as we recognize the value of structured feedback. These specialists now use advanced taxonomies to categorize errors and prioritize the improvements. So we also see the emergence of additional specialized roles in the next slide. We have AI trainers that focus specifically on customizing and fine-tuning MT and LLM models for specific content types, domains, or clients. And this role requires understanding both linguistics and machine learning concepts. Prompt engineers craft and refine the inputs given to AI systems to produce optimal outputs. And as LLMs become more prevalent in workflows, their role has become increasingly valuable, I would say. Quality strategists determine appropriate quality levels for different content types, and they develop strategies to achieve those levels efficiently while balancing automation and human effort. So this specialization is enabling more sophisticated and efficient processes, but also creates new training challenges that we will discuss later. Now, Valeria.
Yeah. So what you can see here is how basically these the processes have evolved. And as you can see, the evolution of the translation workflows over the past few years tells quite an interesting story. So on the left, we can see the traditional machine translation and post-editing workflow that was very common in 2020. So basically, you would pre-translate your files against the translation memory. That was followed by machine translation for the no matches. And then there was human post-editing in a CAT tool environment, followed by some quality assurance checks at the end. So on the right is what we are increasingly seeing today, a much more flexible workflow with multiple entry points for AI assistance, of course. But the key difference includes the pre-translation complexity for sure. So rather than simply applying machine translation to all content, nowadays modern workflow often includes content classification, with different AI approaches applied to different content types. Interactive assistance, basically instead of post-editing complete empty output, translator can work with AI suggestions in real time, making decision on where or when not accept, modify, or ignore the AI input. The augmented review. AI is now often used to enhance the review process because it suggests improvements, it identifies potential issues to the original translation or issues that the original, translators might have missed. And then there is the last one, which I think is very important, is the continuous improvement loops. So basically, modern workflow now include these feedback mechanisms where the translator decision inform and improve AI performance over time and also in real time. And so to go back to the Gala report, it reveals that 58% of the organization now automate at least one workflow process per month without human intervention, with machine translation being still the most commonly automated process. This represents a significant shift from the occasional use of automation we saw back in 2020. So it's very interesting to see that despite this automation trend, there are still about 80% of companies plan to retrain their existing staff rather than replacing them with AI. And so this kind of reinforces what we are seeing in the industry today, that AI is changing the roles rather than eliminating them, with human moving towards a higher value combination contribution in the workflow. What's most significant is also that the human role has shifted from primarily correcting machine translation output to orchestrating and guiding AI systems throughout the process. So translators are becoming AI collaborators rather than simply post-editors of the empty output. And of course, this collaboration is enabled by tools that provide the structured environment for this interaction to occur. And without the terminology management, translation memory, and version control capabilities that CAT tools can offer, this more sophisticated workflow would be actually difficult to implement in a more effective way. So in my work at AWS, for example, we've seen organizations successfully implemented this collaborative workflow. Typically, we see production improvement of about 25–40% compared to what we saw with traditional machine translation approaches, while we're still keeping and maintaining quality that, of course, needs to improve over time. And I think the next one is...
Thank you, Valeria. And I think that what you said is now what we were afraid of back in 2020, and we were trying to explain, we were trying to train people to get involved. Now it's a part of our daily life, we want it or not. It is necessary to use CAT tools and MT for quality, first of all, for me. And then, okay, with all the benefits that we all get in an ethical way, I will always say. And this about the integration and the implementation, this argument about the companies and how they implement brings me to the best part for me of the discussion, the pricing confusion. And this is a central topic for my research because I approached it from the perspective of the errors committed and the compensation models that we could go with and embrace in this AI or digital transformation or whatever keyword you would like to name here. So the technological and workflow changes we have discussed are driving significant evolution in business models across the translation industry. And in 2020, many LSPs were still trying to determine how to price MTP services fairly. We were looking at pros, we were looking at the different companies, we were looking at events, how to do it in a fair way. and balance the efficiency gains against the different skill sets required. In this survey back then, we revealed significant confusion around pricing models. We found that 36.5% of LSPs didn't know what compensation strategy to use, while only 23.1% had settled on flat rate approaches and 21.2% were using hourly rates. Meanwhile, and this is the interesting part, when we asked translators what compensation approach they preferred, 60% favored hourly rates. This disconnect between LSP pricing strategies and translator preferences created friction in the ecosystem and made scaling MTP services challenging. Most organizations were essentially applying traditional translation pricing models to post-editing work without fully accounting for the different nature of the task. Today, we're seeing much more sophisticated approaches emerging in the research institutes, in the different forums. We are talking about value-based pricing. We're moving away from per word models toward pricing based on the value delivered, such as time to market acceleration or increased global engagement. We're talking about tiered service offerings. So many LSPs now offer different levels of human involvement, from fully automated with minimal human review to intensive specialist-led translation with AI assistance. We have continuous localization subscriptions. So rather than project-based billing, ongoing localization services with regular updates, they are enabled by the automation capabilities of modern CAT and AI integration. Technology consulting, LSPs increasingly offer advisory services to help clients optimize their content for AI translation or implement their own CAT AI integration. And custom AI training, services to develop specialized AI models for specific content types built on the data management capabilities of CAT tools. And this part is really important with the new business models for those of you that are attending today, because many of you reached out to me telling me, how can we survive? I don't like this word. How can we stay together, I would say. So you have many of these things to be creative and do something out of them to stay with us in the industry and cope with the digital transformation if you have not already done it. And we are at Gala, we are all together to do so. So let's talk now about driving factors for business evolution. The business case for these new models is becoming clearer and clearer. According to Gala's research, 70% of organizations that measure ROI report that their AI investments save more than what they cost. Most companies are allocating between 1 to 5% of their annual revenue to AI initiatives. According to the NIMG 100 report, they reveal that a striking 85% of LSPs are seeking to move away from per-word pricing models toward alternative approaches, and about 25% are transitioning to hourly project-based or flat-rate models, while 70% are exploring subscription-based or token-based models. This shift is being driven by MT, AI, and automation technologies that challenge the traditional per-word paradigm. The driving forces behind AI adoption show a balanced approach to business objectives. While 90% of organizations see efficiency gains as their primary motivation, 76% point to cost savings and 65% view AI as providing competitive advantage, which is normal. This suggests that organizations are taking a nuanced view of AI's value beyond simple cost reduction. What's particularly interesting is that CAT tools remain central to to delivering these new service models. And I don't know if we have ever thought of it. They provide the infrastructure for managing client assets, ensuring consistency, and maintaining quality control, all essential components for these emerging business approaches. So let's take another moment and right now hear from you because we talked a lot. So we would like to know in the chat and interact, what would you say is your organization's biggest challenge when it comes to implementing AI in your translation processes? Because we hear this again and again, and we're going to ask you these questions in the survey, but it's nice to be together and fill in your shoes because we have all struggled and we still struggle with the new technologies, but this is the good part of it, right, Valeria?
Absolutely, Viveta. I would encourage everyone to just share with us your experience. What have been the biggest challenges that you had? What about cost, quality, concern, all the points that we just touched with Viveta? I think we all been through one of these at some point.
Yeah, I think the most important thing for me now to understand from, I mean, if we could talk, speak truth, would be if now with the AI, we're again looking for quality or if we're looking for cost reduction. Because I have shared this here and there in different workshops or events that I don't know how much people are interested and clients are interested in quality. I mean, yes, we all talk about quality, but what kind of quality? And as we talked in the past with someone from your company, Valeria, in an event, they're saying quality is, and according to ISO, quality is what a client wants. It's not a single thing. So in this era, it's good to know if it is quality, cost, or both of them balanced. We're living in an era where we talk with images, we're scrolling all the time. It is a fast era, so I don't know if we can have a very rich language in a very poor era in terms of word communication, at least in the social media. So we have some answers.
Data privacy, change management, yeah, resistance from the people involved in these processes. I think it's a big one. I mean, from my point of view, when we talk to also to clients, it's like they want AI, but they always have some internal resistance to the adoption. So I feel the change management. It's always an hot topic, like it's security and and quality. It's something that you just mentioned, Viveta. It really depends on the use case, and I agree that at the end of the day, probably it's a perception. It's what the client wants. It's difficult to define, and I would not enter there because quality is a very huge topic. But
Uh,
still, there are ways to define it and have some measurements, automated measurement metrics, again, in the CAT tool for translators to define what is quality for a given client. You were going to
Exactly.
say,
I completely agree with you, especially with security. But I always challenge myself and whatever I read because everyone is very alert with security topics and all this new tech, while even the simplest tech, from the moment you are with your PC, turned on, you have security issues. I mean, it's everywhere. So for me, it's more a matter of personal ethics, professional ethics of each one of us, how we use all this tech, and not in general a matter of security. It is responsibility and training. And by saying that, I'm going to the next slide while people can still interact with these kind of things and with whatever we say. You can share your opinions. And we're going to talk about multi-stakeholder training approach. In the 2020 webinar, we proposed a comprehensive training protocol framework that involved all stakeholders in the translation ecosystem. This approach, which we still advocate today, includes LSP's responsibilities. It is about communicating business opportunities clearly, providing comprehensive training to explain the compensation strategies in full transparency, and share example empty outputs for specific projects. Then we have the vendor translator responsibilities. They need to understand the empty characteristics, to have realistic productivity metrics, and empty competence development. And if we go to educational institutions, which is a great part of the story, there we have a responsibility to create specialized post-editing curricula to believe in our students. This is my parenthesis from experience. Collaborate with industry for real-world projects, cover both theoretical and practical aspects of post-editing. Sometimes because maybe we have some people from the academic world or with academic background, it's good to start from practice, even if students or trainees or whatever, or in the companies, trainees, they don't know anything about the service, and then go to the theory, because it's experimenting is really nice. And we need to conduct research like we do today to improve methodologies. So this framework recognizes that effective training is not the responsibility of any single entity, but requires coordination across the ecosystem. When all stakeholders align their training efforts, the result is a more skilled workforce and more effective AI integration. And because we're going to say that this part is too theoretical, it's not. Everything we say here, it's in progress. I mean, in the academic world, we know we need to move fast, but what can we do if technologies go faster? We're humans. But again, technology cannot advance without humans at the core. So technologies, you need to wait for us a little bit. So let's go and talk about, yes?
No, go ahead, Viveta.
Yeah, Valeria, go ahead.
I was going to like comment on the next slide. So how do we implement some like effective training? So what we try to do with this slide is basically combine different components of how we should implement the training in the context of AI, of course. And so what we try to do is to emphasize the importance of the structured learning through formal courses, while highlighting the value of peer learning communities, for example, like Gala, that always foster collaboration, growth, and I would add also creativity. Hands-on experimentation also encourages the active learning and innovation by testing new workflows in practical settings. Leveraging CAT tools as training environments also helps to bridge theory with industry relevant application in practical use case. And then I would add a gradual skill building approach ensures that learners builds confidence and competence in a progressive way, while the role specific learning path can be tailored to the unique needs of different functions within your organization.
And Valeria, could you please share with us what will be the technology trends in the next 2-3 years?
Sure. So basically, if we look ahead to the next 2-3 years, we can identify different trends that are likely to shape the continued evolution of CAT tools and AI integration. So the ones that you see here are the ones that we wanted to highlight. So the first one is the adaptive AI system. We're seeing early implementation of MT systems that can adapt in real time based on translation feedback. But this capability will become much more sophisticated probably in the future. Then multimodal translation, as the content is increasingly combining text, images, videos, and interactive elements, the CAT tool will need to expand to handle these different content types. Then embedded linguistic intelligence. Rather than CAT tools simply connected to external AI services, we expect to see more sophisticated linguistic AI capability built directly into the CAT environments. Collaborative quality assurance. So AI-powered quality systems that work alongside human reviewers, learning from the correction and eventually also anticipating quality issues. And finally, the cross-language knowledge management, basically moving beyond translation towards systems that can maintain knowledge consistency across different languages and different markets. So these trends, of course, they represent an evolution from the MT focused landscape as we observed in 2020 with the research. Because back then there were primarily, like the main concerns were how to manage efficiently post-editing in a production workflow. Because today, as you can see, we are looking at a much more sophisticated collaboration between human and AI systems.
And now we can see, I think, the next slide, which is more, the timeline of the trends. So you have an idea schematically how is this evolving. And I think we can, after that, after having a look here, we can talk about the service evolution in the industry. And Valeria, what can you share with us about the service evolution and the service development priorities?
So well, the Gala report confirms that several of these emerging trends, it confirms it in concrete terms, I would say. So basically, if looking at the planned services development, 57% of the organization are specifically targeting multimodal translation and localization capability. Additionally, 41% plan to develop custom large language models, and 39% are expanding into data services, which is a clear indication that the industry sees its future beyond traditional text translation. The 2025 NIMSY report highlights that the AI data services are growing significantly, with practically all tech-savvy LSP offering data collection, annotation, validation services, and sometimes also under the brand name like RWS. We have a TrainAI data services team, Willow Data, or Scientific Flow. So these services are crucial for training custom AI models that provide, of course, a huge competitive advantages sometimes. Interestingly, while there's significant focus on new capabilities, only 10% of the organization report taking measure to minimize the environmental impact of the AI use. As computational demand grows, this may become a more prominent concern, specifically for clients with strong ESG commitments.
Thank you very much, Valeria. And we have another gap, the growing talent gap. It is a critical trend that is identified by NIMSY, which is the high competition for top language talent. Price pressure is making the field less attractive to new talent, while in the academia, academic programs are offering fewer opportunities for formal training, and this is not balanced. This is something that oscillates depending on the country and many, many other factors. At the same time, requests from clients are becoming more specific. You must have experienced this, and demanding, especially in high impact areas like healthcare and transcreation. Vendor managers, they're struggling to fill top expertise roles even in high volume languages like Japanese, Korean, and German. This talent shortage is becoming a significant limiting factor for growth in some organizations and highlights the need that we need to ensure that compensation and career development opportunities remain competitive. So on our technology adoption curve, we can see that the translation industry as a whole is moving from the early adopter phase towards the early maturity phase of AI integration. This transition period typically involves standardization, best practice development, and increasing focus on practical implementation rather than experimental use. Now, talking about strategic CAT AI integration, organizations that have established solid CAT tool foundations will be better positioned to adopt these emerging capabilities as they can build on existing processes and technological infrastructure rather than starting from scratch. The key challenge will be probably balancing innovation with stability, meaning adopting new capabilities that add value while maintaining the reliability and quality that clients expect. This is where CAT tools truly show their value as the backbone of AI integration. They provide the stable foundation that allows organizations to experiment with and integrate new AI capabilities without having to rebuild their entire localization infrastructure. So using this framework, as shown here, organizations can evaluate their current capabilities and identify the most promising areas for AI integration based on their specific needs and maturity level. And this is a central point of this webinar, I would say, because what we have here will be one of the results of our survey. We're going to prepare a tool for you that you will use to be able to monitor your progress in this journey towards the digital transformation. So we believe that we should stay together and help you to be there to reach this point of evolution. As we discussed today, the translation industry is undergoing significant transformation. And today we're launching a survey, a wide survey, industry-wide, global-wide survey that will help us understand how organizations are integrating AI with their CAT tools, what challenges they're facing, how they're addressing them, how business models and service offerings are evolving, what skills and training needs are emerging, how the current landscape compares to our 2020 benchmark. And this is to create, let's say, an optimistic environment. Our survey design has been informed by Gala's Business Barometer report, which identified several critical knowledge gaps in the industry. For instance, only 35% of companies currently have formal guidelines for ethical AI use. Data readiness averages just 30% across organizations, and there's wide variability in how ROI is measured and reported. So this is what we will try to do with this survey. We will provide you with actionable intelligence on how to prioritize your AI investments, and participation is open to all Gala members and translation professionals. It's going to be everywhere. Post, repost about it. We will share the link with you, a QR code. It takes 15 minutes to complete it. Share it with anyone who is using CAT tools and is over 18-year-old. And your participation is really crucial to building a comprehensive picture of our industry's technological transformation. So we encourage everyone to take part and share. So I don't think, Valeria, that we have time for this poll. What do you think? Maybe we do.
Unless there are questions from the
Yeah.
audience, because some of these are already in the survey that we will be sharing.
So let's do the following. Let's show the last slide where we have the
Yeah,
survey QR code, and
excellent.
we're open to questions. We have 5 minutes left.
Yeah, I'm sure that Isabella will circulate the recording of the session and additional material. In this last slide, we are sharing with you information about the second webinar, where we basically be sharing the results of the survey. You have the QR code and some recommended resources from us.
Questions? You can write in the chat.
There is a question in the Q&A section, in the Q&A box. Maybe you want to take that.
In the Q&A box. Okay, yes.
I'm going to stop sharing if that's okay for now.
So we have two questions. One of them is why do we think that LSPs and freelancers are more inclined to an hourly rate? This is the question, right? So it's because things are changing and because we are going towards a model where probably we need more, as we said, security. So if we work in secure environments, and this is for LSPs and freelancers, there is an ethical way to monitor and track the time of work of the freelancers and have a fair hourly rate. So this is why they like it best, because if there is a tracker, it is more ethical and more fair. However, I don't know, Valeria, what is your experience? In my experience, freelancers opt for the hourly rate, but LSPs somehow refrain from that because not because they don't want to, but they don't know how to apply it.
It really depends on the use case. Again, for some clients, you can decide to apply an hourly rate, and for the freelancer, a work-based rate. It really depends on some predefined metrics, and depends on the quality. It depends on the use case. Depends on the technologies, because another factor that is to be, I think, considered that from an LSP point of view, sometimes we do work with linguists that work with different tools. So sometimes they need more time to go from one tool to another tool. And so fair compensation can be quite hard in our topic. I can't draw a line where is hourly rate or word rate, because I think there's still a mix of both, and I think you captured it quite well, Vivek, in your answer.
And to cover the last question in 1 minute, and thank you all for being such a wonderful audience and listening to us and participating in the chat. It's not so often. So the average or the range of hourly rates nowadays, you are asking, what is the average? Mainly when I hear this question, the answer is a question. Have you trained your engines or whatever you use? Have you measured it? Have you shared it with your freelancers? If you shared all the data with your freelancers, then there is an hourly rate that can be from 5 to 100 I don't know, to whatever, depending on the case. And I'm sure they will be willing to do so. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending.
Okay, thank you, Viveta and Valeria, and thank you, everybody, for attending and for interacting. We will send you the link to the recording as soon as it is available on our website. Just a few announcements. The next webinar with Viveta and Valeria will be at the end of June on the 26th, same time, same place. I will include the link for the registration in my follow-up email. But before then, we have another webinar. We have a webinar titled Ask Me Anything about large language models and prompt design. So it's your chance to ask everything you wanted to know about these two topics, and it will be presented by Marina Pancheva. For now, thank you again, everybody. Have a good day, have a good evening, depending on where you are. And I hope to see you soon at another Gala webinar. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.